Okay, I'm back. Monstering, modeling the monster truck, monstering the model truck, or whatever you want to call it. And in this segment, we're going to talk about materials. And just to show you what I did on the gun, I added some cylinders here, a sphere here, and cut off the top of it, and just extruded it in, and added some more cylinders here, added some cylinders here, extruded them out, and made little handles here, and made them black. Changed this body of the barrel body of the gun to a darker gray. Smoothed out the barrels, and this is kind of what it looks like right now. Okay, so looking at this, you can see that the black is kind of shiny here, it's kind of shiny there, but the tires are also shiny, and you don't really, well, I don't want shiny tires. I want them to be more flat black. So how do we deal with that? One thing to be careful with your materials is, since I have black here and I've been using the same black material that I created to begin with all over the truck, it's okay for the metal, it's shiny, it's got some specularity to it, but for the tires we don't want to do that. One thing you have to be careful about is if you say, okay, I'm going to select the tires and I'm going to fix the black on the tires. Well, say you went in and you changed the color. You've just changed all the black on your model. So what you have to do is go into your tire. Actually, I'm going to go into this one, since this was the first one. And another nice thing you can do is, since you only want to select the black part, just select black. As long as you got the right material selected, you can select it that way as well. That's another nice way of selecting only the part that you want. Okay, so instead of using the black, what we'll do is create a new material, and instead of using something that existed before, we'll create a new one, and we'll call this one flat black. Come down here and make it black. Okay, it still has some specularity to it, so you can take that out by darkening this, and that makes it kind of a flat black look there. And a sign. So when you kind of look at the difference between the tires that existed over here, you see that shininess there. Maybe on the video, I'm not sure, but hopefully you can see the flatness here. So that's how you take care of that. Another thing to be careful of is, let's select the body of the truck. Okay, say for instance we want to put a flame on the side of this door in our texture. And when you do textures, when you create a texture for this body of this truck, be very careful what material you have selected when you go to create your texture, because if you have glass selected, in this version of Blender it will actually put the texture on that glass. It'll associate it with glass. So what I'm trying to get in the habit of doing now is creating a material that I call the texture material or something. Still trying to work that out, how I want to do that, but in our case, if we want something on the door, we want to make sure we're sitting in this material when we go to create our textures, which we'll be doing in a later segment. So let's look at the truck material itself. I'm going to hit 0 there to see what the camera's seeing. And let's move this camera down a little bit. And let's render that and see what it looks like. Okay, you can see where I moved the, raised the hood up a little bit here. You have some reflections there. And when we were up here, we seen the reflection of the gun a little bit. And reflections on the side here. It kind of looks like, makes it kind of look sort of metallic. So how do you do that? Well, if you go over to your material, actually make sure I have my material selected, my truck selected. What I did is, for one thing, you can bring up the intensity of the specularity. You can kind of watch that little dot there, that how the light is hitting the material is what the specularity is. So you bring that up and you can see the intensity there. You can change the slope of that, you know, how big that thing is as it goes around the material. And I use these two types of materials to get this look. And then I came down to mirror, and I turned up the reflectivity just a little bit. And what that does is, instead of creating like a real mirror, you're creating some mirror reflectivity on the surface, which happens with metal, so it kind of gives it that metal look. So the best thing to do, you know, on these is just start playing around with the settings, see what they do, because there's so many of them. And then when you render it, hopefully you'll get the look you want. This was a very quick setting that I did just to get some kind of reflections to the material. So I'll probably end up working some more with it. But that's where it's at right now. So what else can we say about material? Of course, we made the glass, we gave it some transparency. That turned out pretty good. But pretty much that is it for materials as we go along and get further into the tutorial, and especially when we get into texturing part, we'll run into materials again and talk about them as we hit them. So until next time, this has been Modeling the Monster Truck.